Beekeeping is a hobby for me. A hobby is something you do for fun. For me, teaching photography is work. Beekeeping is fun. I do it in my spare time, and I do it because I enjoy doing it. So hopefully you will have a hobby when you get older, and possibly beekeeping would be your hobby. Bees are very important to us. They provide us with a lot of good things, and most people don't even think about what those things are. Whenever I say bees, what do you think of the first thing when I say bees? What is the first thing they give us? Yes, ma'am?
They give us honey.
They give us honey. And here are some jars of honey that have come from my bees. Now these jars of honey are good and they are sweet. But if you look at them, they look a little different. This one looks like it has sugar in it. And that's because it is granulated. Honey will granulate and turn into sugar or hard sugar. Now that doesn't mean it's bad. People find this in their pantry and they go, oh, that honey's bad. Let's throw it away. And they'll throw that jar of honey away. That's not necessary. Honey never goes bad. We have found honey in the tombs of the pharaohs that's over 2,000 years old, and the honey is still good. All you have to do is take this jar of honey, have your parents put a pan of water on the stove and warm it up to where they can just barely stick their finger in it and it's too hot, and then you put this jar in there, and about an hour later it will have turned back into good honey, and where it will pour out of the jar. So the honey never goes bad. Don't throw it away, it is still good. But honey is not the only thing that the bees give us. Bees give us wax. This is wax that the bees have used, and they were no longer they didn't need it anymore, so I melted it down and made wax bars out of it. Now this is not something you can eat, but you can make things out of the wax. You can make candles out of wax. This is a bar of soap that is made out of wax, and you can wash your hands with this soap. Some people make lip balm. You know, in the winter when your lips get chapped and they hurt, you put something on them and it feels good. A lot of that is made out of wax. I know a lady that makes toothpaste out of beeswax. And that's kind of weird, but she makes her toothpaste out of beeswax. So the bees give us wax that we can use to make a lot of different things. Bees pollinate flowers. This is a picture of a bee pollinating a flower. They get the pollen and the nectar from the flower. You can see the yellow pollen all over the bee, and the bee collects some of the pollen and puts it in a sack on her leg. And then she carries it back to the hive and feeds it to her little baby bees. Now this is pollen that the bees collected and took to their hive. And this is good to eat. It has a lot of good enzymes and vitamins in it. And if you have a lot of allergies where your nose is runny and your eyes water, if you eat about a teaspoon of pollen every day, it's going to help your body acclimate to the pollen that's in your area, and your allergies won't be as bad. So bees give us pollen. Another thing that they give us is the pollination itself. What happens is the bee gathers the pollen and has all kind of the pollen grains on their hair. Bees are kind of hairy. You don't think about that, but bees are hairy like you have hair. Then they fly to the next flower and they put some of that pollen on the next flower and the next flower and the next flower. So the bee is spreading the pollen around, and a lot of flowers need that to make good fruit. We have cucumbers. Everybody knows what a cucumber is. What do we make out of cucumbers? Yes, ma'am?
Pickles.
Pickles. I like pickles. But the bees pollinate the cucumbers. If the bees didn't pollinate the cucumbers would be stunted and twisted. If they didn't pollinate the apples would be, half of it would be good and half of it would be kind of shriveled. If they didn't pollinate oranges, they wouldn't be near as big. If they didn't pollinate our watermelons, the watermelons would be real tiny and not very juicy. And if they didn't pollinate almonds, we would not have any almonds. That's a nut. So the bees are important to what we eat. About 2/3 of the food that we eat, more than half the food you eat, is good because the bees pollinated that crop. So bees are important for pollination. There's other things that the bees give us too that's very minor that most people don't know about. There's only one bad thing about a bee, and that is that bees will sting. Now bees don't bite. When something bites you, it's with its teeth. But bees sting, and that's generally with its tail. A lot of people say, I got stung by a bee. And what they don't realize is maybe they were stung by a yellow jacket or a wasp. There's a difference in them. Yellow jackets and wasps have a straight stinger, like a needle. And if they sting you, they can fly away and sting your other arm, fly away and sting your friend, and fly back and sting you again. Okay, so yellow jackets and wasps can sting you multiple times. Bees have a barb or a hook on the end of their stinger. And when they sting you, they really don't want to, because they know whenever they sting you and they fly away, they're going to die. Because what happens, that stinger hooks in your skin and flies away, and part of their inside stays with that stinger. It's like a bulb or a ball of poison or venom, and it kind of starts pumping, and it's pumping that poison into your hand. And that's what really, really hurts. Well, you look down there and you see it, and you go, oh, there's a sticker there or a stinger. I'm going to pull it out. So you reach down with your big old fingers and you grab it and you squeeze that great big ball. What have you just done to all the venom in that sack? You put it into your arm. And that's not what you want. So your instinct is to reach down there, grab it, and pull it out. But don't do that. Use your fingernail, or have your parents get a credit card out, or use the edge of something that's blunt like this and scrape it to the side, so that I'm scraping to the side, and now I'm going to pull that stinger out, and the poison is going to come with it. It's not going to get pumped into your arm. So if you get stung and you look down there and there's just a welt where their sting was and there's nothing there, then it was a yellow jacket or a wasp. If there's a sticker in there, then it was a bee. Okay, so that's the difference in the two. Now, the other day I went out to my hives and I looked at my hives, and this is what we keep our bees in, is a box like this. Bees like to live in a cavity. They don't live out in the open very much. They don't fly from tree to tree. They stay in a cavity where they can be protected from the wind. So if you're walking around in the woods and you see bees going in and out of a hole on a tree, or if you see bees going in and out of a hole on a wall like this, leave them alone. Or if you see a box like this, leave it alone, because there are bees inside. And the bees protect their home. If you were in your house and a 60-foot gorilla came up and started ripping the roof off your house and poking his fingers in the doors and the windows, you'd be pretty scared, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you'd say, Daddy, go take care of that thing, or call the police or the fire department. Get that gorilla out of here. Well, if you walk up to a house like this, to a box like this, to a tiny bee, you are a 60-foot gorilla. Okay? And they're going, there's a big human outside. Guard bees, go attack that human and protect our house. So the guard bees fly out and chase you and try to sting you. Don't be angry at them. They're just protecting their house like your daddy would protect your house. Okay? So that's all they're doing, is protecting their home. They don't want to sting you because they will die, but they will protect their home if they need to. Now, if you're out in the forest and you see a bee on a flower, or in your garden and you see a bee on a flower, you can go up there and look real close at that flower, because that bee is not near its house. She's not going to sting you. But leave the bees alone. Don't grab it like this, because then it's trapped and it will sting you to try to get away. But leave the bees' house alone. So I went out to my bees and I wanted to look at them, and the first thing I did is get suited up. I get stung. I don't like to get stung, and I'm not allergic to bee stings, but I still don't like to get stung. So I suited up. And the first thing I did is I put on my veil, okay? I need some help. Young lady, can you come help me for a second? Can I put this on your head? Can I do that? Okay, turn around and face your friends. Okay, I put on my veil, and I slipped it over my head like this, all the way down, getting your hair caught here, just like that. And now the bees, they couldn't get to my pretty face. What's wrong with my pretty face? Well, they couldn't get to her pretty face, okay? Leave it on, please. Can you do that for a second? You don't want to leave it on? Just for a little bit longer? Okay. You want to come help, sir? Come over here. Thank you. Go sit down, please. Okay, let me put this on right there, okay? There we go. There. Now the bees can't get to his pretty face, okay? The next thing that I did was put on my gloves, okay? See, those are long gloves, so they don't get on my arms, okay? So, give me your arm here. Stick your hand in there. Okay, and over here, put this one on. Okay, that one didn't any better, is it? Okay. Then I put on my suit. No, that's not going to work, is it? No. Okay. Let's take them back off, okay? So I put all of this on, and now the bees couldn't get to me. And they don't sting me. Thank you very much. They don't sting me, and I can work my bees without getting stung. So I opened my hive up. You ready to open a hive? Yes. Well, there's no bees in this one, though, okay? I opened the hive up, took the top off. Remember, my fingers are in these big, thick gloves, so I can't reach down in here and grab this because it's supposed to be full, but it'll be full of these frames, and my fingers wouldn't fit in between there. So I have a tool called a frame grabber, and I use this to reach in and grab one of those frames and pick it up like this. And I can look at both sides of the frame that way and see how the bees are doing. Now this one is not finished. This is a new piece of comb in here, and they will draw out the comb on both sides with more wax. This is what we put in. This is a piece of wax, and it has the imprint of the cells that we want them to build on the wax. Bees build a certain size or shape cell. Does anybody know what shape cell the bees make? Yes, sir? Nope, not a square. Yes, sir? Nope, that's 8-sided. It's a hexagon, okay? A hexagon, how many sides on a hexagon? 6. 6 sides on a hexagon, okay? So this is the wax. The wax is very pliable. Everybody say pliable. Pliable. Pliable means it's flexible, okay? This is a piece of wax that we put in there. I'm going to pass it around. You can look at the wax, feel it. Don't squeeze it much, just kind of feel it and flex it a little bit. Don't tear it up, but pass it to the next person. So we put the wax in here, and the bees draw it out and make a bigger cell out of it, a hexagon, to store their honey in, to lay their eggs in, to raise their little bees in. I wanted to look at this, and I looked at it, and then I took some of the bees out, and I put them in this observation hive. Okay, this is an observation hive. It's called an observation hive because it has glass on the side. And the bees are in here, but they cannot get out. They are sealed in place and they're not going to hurt you. But I'm going to take this off and let you see the bees. Okay, here are the bees out of my hive. Okay, in this hive there can be as many as 60,000 bees. There's not that many in here because this is a small hive. But there can be as many as 60,000 bees. Now there are 3 kinds of bees in a hive. The first kind you've probably all heard of is the queen bee. Everybody say queen bee. Queen bee. Thank you. The queen bee is the mother bee. She's the mother of all the bees, and she lays all of the eggs. She can lay up to 2,000 eggs every day. 2,000 eggs every day. So if she could lay 2,000 eggs every day, how many eggs could she lay in a week? Yes, ma'am? Let's add it up and see, okay? How many days in a week? 7. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 7 days. So today she lays 2,000 eggs. If she lays 2,000 tomorrow, how many would that be? 4,000. If she lays 2,000 the next day, how many would that be? 6,000. 4 plus 2 is 6. After that, 6 plus 2 is 8,000. 8 plus 2 is 10,000. 10 plus 2 is 12,000. 12 plus 2 is 14,000. She could lay 14,000 eggs in a week. That's a lot of eggs, isn't it? The second kind of bee is the worker bee. Everybody say worker bee. Worker bee. Thank you. Your worker bee is a female bee or a girl bee. They are all females, and they do all the work. The worker bee cleans the hive, feeds the queen, takes care of the pollen, dries the nectar, goes out and gathers the pollen and the nectar, guards the hive. She does all the work. And they live about 6 weeks. The third kind of bee that you have is the drone bee. Everybody say drone bee.
Drone bee.
The drone bee is the male or the daddy bee. You don't have a whole lot of male bees in the hive. You don't have a whole lot of drones. About 4% or 4 out of 100 is a drone bee. The drone bees, what do? They don't do anything. They don't work. They don't clean. They don't gather. They don't make honey. They don't even feed themselves. They just sit there and wait to be fed. That's all that they do. So that sounds like a pretty good life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? It started getting cold this morning, didn't it? Whenever it gets cold outside, they kick the drones out and the drones die in the winter. They don't let them in. That doesn't sound too good, does it? But the drones do have a purpose. The drones have a purpose, and that's to mate with the queen or be the daddy bee. The trouble is, they mate with the queen one time and then they die. That's not fun either, is it? So all of a sudden, it's not such a good idea to be a drone, is it? No. Okay. So we have 3 kinds of bees. What was the first one? Was the queen, then the worker bee, then the drone. Okay, very good. And they are all in a hive together. Right now it's gotten a little cool and we don't have any drones. They've already kicked all the drones out. So we can't find a drone in here. But there is one queen. And we'll let you see her in a minute. She was on this side earlier. I don't know where she is right now. She can go from side to side. Her body is a little bit bigger. This is a queen bee. Okay, this is the queen. If you'll look, this is her thorax. The thorax is her back. And on the queen in here, I put a white dot on the queen's thorax so we could find her easier. Now, some of the bees have kind of taken it off already, so it's kind of a gray dot right now. But look, her body is longer. This is a worker bee. And see the body, the abdomen is not near as long. This one, her abdomen is longer, the wings are shorter, and she has no hair on her thorax. But her body is bigger. So you can find her in here because she has a white dot, but if you look at her body is longer than the other bees. She's the mother bee, okay?